Okay, I had my little rant about why internet filtering is a bad thing, and I got that out of my system. So this is the sensible discussion on the topic. So the Australian government is proposing mandatory filtering of the entire internet for all people to block illegal activity. And on the face of it, that's a little bit hard to argue with. If something's illegal in the country, surely the government should be able to stop it. Well, it simply isn't that black and white. Now, the one that's always trotted out is the porn, particularly the kiddie porn. We've got to stop the porn and it getting to the kids and the exploitation of the kids. All good ideals. But the simple fact is, this global internet filter won't work. There are three absurdly obvious reasons a filter won't work for blocking porn. First, they can't block all the porn. New porn sites are popping up by the second, and a huge amount would still get through. Second, any filter is trivially easy to get around. Pretend there was some secret magic filter that did work, that blocked out 100% of porn sites. Even that's useless because the filters can't track things like file sharing software, peer-to-peer networks, and they can't track email. You could send all the files around by email, or one of the more recent tricks that got around recently for file sharing was to put segments of files as attachments on free email accounts, like Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, Gmail, the dozens of others that are out there, and then you just circulate the email addresses and passwords to the accounts to people you want to share the material with. And none of these filters will work for that sort of thing. Third, the best of these filters have an unacceptable rate of false positives, by which I mean identifying sites as illegal when they aren't illegal, blocking them when they shouldn't be blocked. It's gone as far as I've worked in one place where the in-house filter called the CNN news website porn and blocked it. That's an extreme case, but a real case. But let's say the best case scenario, the best of these software claim they only have a 1% false positive rate. And they're lying. They get way higher than that. But let's take them at their word and say only 1% of the time something gets blocked that shouldn't be blocked. 1%, that's nothing, right? We shouldn't worry about that. Well, let's get real. How many websites are there? Well, that depends who you ask and how they measure it, but it's reasonably accurate to say there's at least 1.8 billion websites in the world, and it's growing rapidly. So, 1.8 billion, and 1% of those get falsely advertised as illegal and get blocked by the government censorship. That means about, 20 million websites falsely identified as illegal. Does that sound reasonable to you? Another reason this really can't be allowed to go ahead is the method they're proposing. They're going for blocking at the ISP level, like filtering all of the internet before it gets to Australia, before it gets to users. Now, the previous government also wanted to do this for moral reasons, but they couldn't even fake the results. They went, no, it's actually unacceptable. It won't work, and the way it bogs down the internet traffic is just unacceptable. You'll be killing the internet. But the current government's going, oh, no, the technology's better now. We can do it. No, it isn't. No, we can't. Anyone reasonable will say this is going to bog stuff down too much, and all the smaller ISPs would go broke trying to put it in place, which just consolidates with the big players who are already screwing the market and charging us too much and giving us lousy service. And for international viewers who may be wondering, well, how bad is your internet access? Let me give you an example. We have limits on what you can download, we have crap speeds, and it's expensive. The best internet connection I've been able to find is a cable internet, so the speed's reasonable, but it's capped, the broadband is capped at 25 gigabytes a month, which if you're on YouTube like me is real easy to use up, and it costs $99 fucking dollars. That's how bad the internet is in Australia, and this government plan will make it way worse. And the grand plan means the default internet is kid-friendly. That's right, when you plug in the internet, they want you to only get G-rated stuff, which is of course patently ridiculous. So of course they said, well, you can opt out. You have to ask to not have that level of filtering on your internet, and they will still filter illegal stuff, which, like I was saying before, well, if it's illegal, that's okay to filter it, isn't it? Well, yeah, that gets down to definitions. Let's get real, let's talk about porn. In Australia, porn is illegal. I'm not talking about kiddie porn. I'm not talking about animal porn. I'm not talking about rape, degradation, bad stuff. I'm talking about penis in vagina porn is illegal, except in the Australian Capital Territory and the Northern Territory. So for the vast majority of Australians, it's been decided we're not adult enough to look at porn. So we're not adult enough to have porn, so this is suggesting that anything vaguely raunchy would be censored on Australia's internet. Oh, and this is the adult opt-out internet, so what they're saying is you have to tell the government that you want to look at stuff that's too naughty for kids to look at. Yes, that's right. You've got to tell the government that you want to look at stuff that might be a bit sus. Does anyone feel nervous about telling the government that? And it goes way beyond porn. For instance, sites that advocate terrorism are illegal. And they should be. But who gets to define that? You know, the shades of grey between the black and white of terrorist and nice person. All through here, you've got all the things about, you know, people suffering oppression, humanitarian aid. Are you a freedom fighter or a terrorist? That obviously depends on what your personal politics are. But seriously, does anyone not see a government abusing that for any sort of dissension? I mean, this puts Australia on a par with China. Like I said, in China, you'll get cut off by mentioning democracy or Falun Gong. In Thailand, if I say that the royal family are anything less than godlike, that'll get me cut off the internet. In Turkey, if I criticise Ataturk, you'll get cut off. And there are examples of this all around the world. And this is apparently what's going to be forced on us in Australia. Another example, euthanasia is illegal. Sites telling you how to kill yourself, that would be illegal. And you can argue that's fair enough. But what about people who want to argue the politics of it? They say that people should have the right to choose when they die with dignity. They want to debate the issues. Is that going to be made illegal? Well, we probably wouldn't know because there'd be this blanket fucking ban that would stop us from having these discussions. And the other thing, if you read through the comments that are going to show up here, you're going to get a lot of Australians going, what? They're trying to do that? This is being sneaked through. This is not getting media coverage. This is not being opened for discussion. People don't realise the extent that the government's trying to take this to. So to summarise, we've got a government proposing a system that's unworkable, unreasonable, and expensive, and will destroy the internet experience in Australia and won't stop criminals for 5 seconds. It will only hurt law-abiding people. So what can we do about this? First up, online petitions. Complete waste of time. Makes you feel good, achieves nothing. Written petitions achieve nothing. They're completely ignored by politicians. Online petitions are a joke. Don't waste your time. Here's what you need to do. Write a letter. Not even an email. They don't read email. Write a letter to your MP, to the government, telling them why it's a bad idea. If you want some help on framing it, look at Electronic Frontiers Australia. Of course, I will provide the link. They have a good campaign going on. But write a letter to your MP or to the government. Oh, be respectful. Don't swear. Don't abuse them. Don't call them stupid. They will rightly ignore you if you do that. Just put the case forward. You don't have to be abusive. This is so straightforward why this is a bad thing. Put it in writing. Like I said, Electronic Frontiers Australia. Support Electronic Frontiers Australia. They're a good lobby group. And increasingly, the ISPs are going to start lobbying against this because it's too expensive and too unworkable for them as well. And just talk about it. It's frightening how many people don't know about this. Get it into the media, right? Letters to the editor, letters to the media, that sort of thing. Get this talked about. At the moment, it's sneaking through on stealth. So get involved or we are going to have the suckiest internet outside of China right here in Australia. And nobody wants that. In the end, the government doesn't want that, but they're such control freaks they don't seem to understand how the outcome would be so bad. So it's up to us to speak up and say, this isn't acceptable. We need to be treated like adults. We need to work on educating people on how to protect their children and maybe actually supervising their children and taking an active role in their children's life rather than letting the government turn us into a nanny state or rapidly devolving into a police state where they get to control what we can and can't do. We need to stand up. We need to be heard. So Australia, get on to this.